Members of the company, this is your Places call. Places, please. Places for the top of the podcast. Places, please.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the glitz and not-so-glam of Broadway, education, and everyday life with Uncommon Sense. Join hosts Christopher Smith and Sharna Lopez as they bring you the best stories and shenanigans that seemingly prove how elusive common sense can really be. So take a little time for yourself to hang out with the dynamic duo Charnopher. And no leaving early, because you might just miss that 11 o'clock number.
Stand by music. Music, go.
Uncommon sense, the 11 o'clock number. And we are Charnopher.
Pink goes good with green.
It does.
Welcome back, Charno fans, to our part 2 episode of Wicked Discussions. Wicked the movie.
The movie part 1.
Yeah.
Every time I say it,
So
everyone
annoying.
can hear the annoyance in my voice. That's just me. It's just me.
So annoyed.
However, we left you on a cliffhanger. We have Tyler Jenkins here, everybody, in case you're listening to these separately. He popped in. We were awaiting his arrival.
Yeah.
And he popped in the middle of our last episode.
Come in via bubble,
and he
though.
stayed for part 2. Hey, that moment was funny in the movie, the bubble, when she has to get back out of it. Did you guys think that was funny?
That was so funny. Yeah. Well, and I was listening
She's like,
to...
oh, hold on.
I was listening to... randomly by accident started playing on YouTube after something else, and then I got sucked in. It was an interview with Kristen and Ariana and Cynthia and and Adina.
We know the one.
I was like, wow, names are hard for me. That's standard though. So Kristen had said that was the one thing she was most jealous about, I think, was the fact that in the movie you could really do an actual bubble. Whereas on stage you can't really do it. So it's so fun. And
I love that scene.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
So
Don't
cool.
you think, like, Ruby went back and watched Wizard of Oz after we watched Wicked, because I was like, oh my gosh, they like recreated a really good version of Munchkin Town. Like, I thought they did scenically. I thought production and design wise, they did a really great job of that.
Well,
and sort of the cute little nods to things in Emerald City, and their production team was really, really great.
Well, and they built a lot of it. Not all of them, but they planted something like 1 million tulips for the tulip field. Like, it wasn't just CG.
Where?
I don't know where it filmed, honestly. Do you know where it filmed?
Can we go there and do a photo shoot?
It's probably in Europe somewhere.
I do, but I don't know where the tulip scene was filmed. But I have a thing called Google, so let's see.
Oh my gosh, look at you.
So
this cute little thing called Google.
A cute thing called Google. The other thing Kristen said, which I didn't realize until I did a little more research, was Glinda in the book is such a minor character, really, and they don't really interact a lot, Glinda and Elphaba. And so when they made the musical and they changed the focus to be more about their relationship, she became a much larger, basically co-lead, right? So,
I
kind of found that interesting.
I'm going to go back and read the book now, I think,
well,
for
I've
sure.
heard,
What'd you find,
I know
Tyler?
it's very dark.
Face.
I know that. And I've also heard it's like really adult, actually. I don't know.
Okay.
It is. Especially the beginning. It covers a lot of like adult topics of conversation, and a lot of them are super relevant right now, which is kind of interesting. So it starts right out the gate where you're reading for the first, I don't know how fast you read. So let's say
slow.
You read for the first 100 pages and you're like, what? Me too.
Yeah. I like me a good audiobook in my car.
Mm.
I'll do that. Tyler, did you find the poppy field? Can we go there? Or tulip field?
Yes, I did. If we want to go to Norfolk, England.
Oh, wonderful. Can't go there.
Yeah.
Nope. I was hoping you'd say Fullerton because we could go to Fullerton.
Or maybe the Carlsbad.
It's actually at the Orange Circle.
Yeah.
The
Circle. Yeah, because Carlsbad has that flower field. So that's interesting. I was like, maybe they did it there.
Yeah.
Something just popped into my brain when we were discussing the beginning of the movie. Another piece that I really like that they added was young Elphaba and young Nessa. Did you guys like that? I love how it comes full circle and she sees her reflection in the end. I thought that was really great writing. And I think it helps establish, like in the musical, you go from the baby's green and then she's an adult.
Right.
And I actually really love that they have that moment with her and Nessa. And like with the bear nurse being like, it's okay. It like establishes that love of animals connection. Oh, I love that part.
Well, it just really gives us a much deeper view into her past, right? And their relationship. Like, and you can tell, but also it just gives you another thing to hold on to really have a touchstone for that relationship, which I think is so cool.
Yeah.
I really love that they, one, established that she's always had powers.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
Yeah.
Literally born and bam, everything's on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Which I think that scene is super cool too. Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. I mainly love why they focused a little bit more on her being a child. Because when she's falling, spoiler, during Defying Gravity, and she's looking at her younger self in the mirror.
Yep.
And it's like, it's okay. Like, you can come, like, be who you always want to be. Come with me, like, my younger self. That's like, well, in my life, that's resonating a lot. So, like, I saw that moment, and that was my second tier moment, like, full tier. That was like, oh, yes, it's okay to be who you are. Bring yourself. Like, it's okay.
And almost like she's, like, inviting her, but also teaching her, right? Like, when she's, like, teaching her to reach her hand out, it's like the younger version of her is like, no, this is what you have to do. This is how you do it. And this is how you become who you want to be. I do agree. I like that moment, but that is a great transition into Defying Gravity musically. And Tyler, you can give us your opinion. Christopher and I have talked a bit about this. It is one of the moments in the show that musically Christopher and I are not a fan of. Christopher, do you want? I know how much you feel strongly about this. Christopher, do you want to sort of take the lead on this?
It's not so much that I'm not a fan of it because I actually love all the elements of it, but I am not a fan of how it comes together. I feel like I'm watching Lord of the Rings, where it's like, we're done. Just kidding. We're gonna come back and do something else. Okay, we're done. Okay, spoiler alert.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. We're gonna do it again. So I feel like my issue is that it messes with the build. I think it would have been more powerful if it kept building rather than start, stop. Because like, I think that I really like the elements they added. I liked the extra unlimited in there. I liked the big choral ending. I mean, which I knew they were going to have to do something like that when it's the end of an actual movie and not just the end of Act 1. So I like that. But the thing that I think makes Act 1 so powerful on the stage is just the blackout, basically.
Boom. Yep.
Right? So it's like that, but that strong button, which we lose that energy in the film for me. So anyway.
I agree. And I think the second time I watched it, I paid more attention to it because you and I had discussed it. And they take a section and they revisit Shiz. Right? Like they go away from the tower and then they go back to Nessa and her dad having the heart attack or whatever. And they go back to the students hearing the announcement. And I like that they take us back to these different places to incorporate everyone in the story, like to get us all up to speed. But I feel like they could have done that elsewhere. There's so many breaks naturally in that song that to wait until the very end when the song is building, and then it's like, and we're back at Shiz. It's for me, that's where I was like, ooh, it feels misplaced. And I agree with that. Is probably the most iconic musical moment in the show.
And in the last 30 years in 100%. Theater.
Yes.
20 years,
yes.
sorry.
And you could say to anybody, and everyone knows what it is. And she sounds beautiful and amazing and fierce, but the build is gone. And I think that for me, yeah, I agree. I was just like, how'd you feel about it, Tyler? Did you feel similar?
It's interesting that we're talking about the stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, because where it stopped for me, the exact opposite of Christopher, it stopped when they added things.
Okay.
The extra unlimited, I'm like, what's that adding?
You don't need it? Yeah.
We're not adding anything besides she's flying in the sky and using some CGI.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I can agree with visually. It was like, we don't really need that. Yeah. I can agree with that. The other thing is she kept coming back. Someone said, they're like, just fly away already, girl. Yeah. Like, what?
She's like, I'm going to fly in a circle and we're back.
Yeah, just to make sure that you can see me. Yeah, that's funny.
Hey, friends, I can fly. I'm flying.
To that exact point. Yeah. To that point, I do. I see why she flew around, got the flying monkeys.
Yeah.
To hit the guards. I see that. There was something a little too CGI. CGI, that's a word.
It is now.
Today it is.
About the fact, because I think we're so used to seeing the fact that she's standing on that cherry picker, singing, belting. And there's something, I'm not going to stand up and do it. Again, my Zoom outfit. But there's something about her grabbing her broomstick. Here's the microphone that I'm supposed to be using. Grabbing it. And going, it's time to try, defy. And I'm like, it took it out.
Yeah.
Because it was so not CGI the whole film because of how much, well, besides the animals, but because of how much they built that moment, I almost started laughing. I was like, this is.
I could see that.
I get it, but.
I could see that. You know what's interesting? Another thing they added that I like that you can't do in the musical, the whole balloon sequence, I thought was really cool. I thought with like the whole on fire and trying to get out, and it sort of heightened this sense of we need to escape, and they were in it together, and she's jumping, and it created this wonderful like build, and then again, and I obviously some of that is CGI'd, I'm assuming, but I didn't feel it. And I agree with you, Tyler, in that one moment where it's like, wait, why did we sort of jump into this? Yeah, I don't know. And again, we're totally nitpicking this.
Absolutely.
All three of us, I think, loved the movie, and everyone's going to have their specific things. And sometimes I always want to be like, I'd love to hear from somebody who either made that choice or helped design it or was part of the process, right? Like we know zero. But yeah, I think soundtrack wise, I want to listen to that Defying Gravity. And then I'm like, but I don't want to listen to the end because so I'm gonna go back and listen to
I would
actually, but man, her voice.
I want to go find, see if there's a video of Steven talking about that ending. Cause that was a big discussion 50 times.
Yeah.
So I would love to know how we landed on this being the decision. And the thought process on that.
Yeah, because the music in this show has always, Christopher and I have always had a bond over Wicked. And there's some people who do not like Wicked at all, which we can still be friends, but not today. And I love the music. And I was telling Christopher earlier, Tyler, before you jumped on, that I really didn't like the addition in Emerald City when they brought in Adina and Kristen. I did not like it. And I wanted them to be included in the movie. I think that was really, really great, but it felt super disjointed, and I'm fine with them adding music. That's fine. It's their choice. Obviously same composer, but it didn't feel like it worked for me, at least.
Yeah, I feel like musically it did not match the rest of the number.
Yeah.
The only reason I was absolutely up, well, no, there's a couple because Idina gave her, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. That's what the people want. That's what the people need.
Totally.
Thank you. But besides like the little random additions, like I would still say the Defying Gravity additions still like fit in the song, but it didn't feel completely new. This moment in Oz was brand new to the show. And what I appreciated in my little Wicked Theater heart was that so far, we'll see how part 2 is, but so far the only people that are singing like brand new pieces of material besides that one random steward dude that sings at the very beginning of the section.
Yeah.
It's sung by them too. Idina and Kristen, like
Yeah.
who did the original thing. So I liked that if anyone was going to sing something that was brand new, it should have been
I didn't even
them
think
too.
about that. I like that. I like that idea.
As well.
That's actually really smart. What'd you think about the musical change at the end of Popular, where she got to do like an extra little
take it up a
bit?
So I just watched all of my Instagram is just interviews of this movie. Just watched an interview involving this moment.
Okay.
And apparently Ariana was saying that they didn't know what ending they were going to do. If they were going to stick to the original versus this extra little bit in the hallway.
Yeah.
Then they decided like day of that that's what they were going to do. So I'm not against it. I love a mean leg. The fact that she got into her ear, I was like, yeah.
I feel like it's a great moment where you're like, you can move. Like, I've never seen her dance like that. And even coming from a dancer, I was like, okay, girl, like she's kind of fierce in the hallway in that section. I like it.
Perfect little connection, because we were talking about Popular earlier. I feel like Popular was so about them two that it didn't feel too Glinda focused. Like it was Glinda grabbing Elphaba more, which I did enjoy that. But this was the one part of the song that you just saw Glinda be Glinda and live in her little Popular world.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind the fact that they added it in.
Yeah. I like that. I liked it too. Before we have like a little bit of time left in this episode, are we going to talk about like future stuff? Are we going to talk about what else did you guys want to cover?
Well, I want to talk about the fact that we changed Elphaba's reason for being at Shiz.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, what? And like I said, I hadn't seen the stage play in a hot minute. So I was like, wait, that's new, right? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
The fact that in the show, in the musical on stage, she goes as a student to Shiz, which makes so much more sense to me.
Yep.
And so I can kind of see why they chose to take this route where she's just there and then ends up getting sucked in. But for me, I didn't love it. I didn't love that. Like, she's just like there. It's like, oh, you go to school here now because you had a magical oopsie. I felt like they did a decent job of like doing that, but I didn't like the seemingly unintentional way she landed at Shiz.
You know what's funny? I didn't even think about that. I knew it was different the second I saw it, and I kind of just like brushed it off. And now that you mention it, I do. The second time I saw it, I remember being like, "This is awkward."
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was necessary. Like, why? Again, if we could ask a person who either wrote it or made the choice, like, why? I do think this idea of her not being allowed to go to the school because of how much her father didn't like her, didn't support her, right? To sort of establish that. To help, and then to have it be not her father's choice for her to go there, but Madame Morrible's choice for her to stay because she sees her power.
Right.
I could see that. I also don't know. Again, I'm going to be seeing the show on stage again shortly. The whole vibe with Nessa, I don't recall Nessa ever being irritated with Elfie. Like, I don't ever recall her being like, you're ruining everything, stay away from me. I don't, not until maybe Act 2, right?
Yeah.
I felt like in the stage production, Act 1 was very much like sisterhood and be nice to my sister both ways, right? Yeah. And I feel like in the movie, it was more like Nessa wanted to be independent and didn't want to stand up for her sister. And I don't, maybe I'm misremembering. Well, Tyler, do you remember?
No, you are spot on with that, and that's where I get concerned for part 2, because that was a big character moment for Act 2, part 2. That's her first time is when Elphaba is trying to fix things. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Miss Ma'am can walk.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And even at that point, it's like, no, like she's still standing her ground and is mad at Elphaba. That's the first time that we really see that.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's already now happened
feels a little weird.
Now I'm concerned. I'm like, so, especially because the Nessa Rose actor is in a wheelchair. They are a wheelchair user.
Yeah.
So that I wonder if that was intentional because they plan on doing something else.
I didn't even think about that, Tyler.
The powers.
Right.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Because in the musical, again, we've already told people if you don't want to hear anything else, you can, disregard till later. But yeah, she's able to stand. And if this actress, who actually I thought did a phenomenal job, is a wheelchair user and is unable to stand, I wonder if they are going to make a choice to do something different. That will be interesting to see. I don't know. Yeah. But again, I felt that like already tension there, which seemed odd because they set up such a beautiful thing in the beginning with the babies and how they're like the sisters and they love each other.
Well, and they spent so much time
Nessa,
on it.
when she's like, her little voice, she's so cute. She's so cute. They did. They spent so much time, right, establishing that, and so that piece of it was
to erode
strange.
it so
and Tyler,
quickly.
I didn't even think about that for Act 2. Yeah. I also think the Christopher mentioned, I think maybe before you got on the last episode, Tyler, there was such a gap in storyline between Fiyero arrives and then now I'm going to marry him and we're madly in love and he's acting distant and all like this passage of time. Because I think the Galinda Fiyero relationship, they didn't, even though the movie was almost 3 hours, they didn't really give us much in there. And I think without establishing that too much, moving into the next movie might be, we'll see.
Does that not go into, and I could be overanalyzing because I love to do that with this movie. Is there, the reason they maybe didn't put it in is because, as Galinda says, like, this didn't, like, something didn't go my way. I'm going to faint. Like, earlier on,
get a pastry. I love that part.
Right. That was so brilliant.
They're funny. They're funny. The friends. I like that.
Did they purposely leave that out because Galinda made this up in her own brain? Because I never felt the solid connection between Fiyero and Galinda.
Yeah. I can see that. Well, and I think he doesn't like her at all. She's just, and again, if she could have established more of the popular girl leader on campus, not just a pretty girl, I think that's exactly what he's like. Oh, she'll go to the Ozdesk with me. She's a dumb girl who just likes handsome boys, right? Like that, I think, is what was established. And they kiss in the ballroom, right? Or in one of the numbers, they kiss.
Do they?
They do because she sees it.
Oh, that's right.
Bach's watching. Right. And then they establish that. So they have that little moment. But again, I think it's very flippant. It's not like a relationship. So you might be right. And that they didn't want to set that up too much because, Yeah, I'm excited for part 2. But
yeah, I know I've only seen it once. But I do think maybe not as much as we'd like. But I do actually think they've established her as a leader of the pack type human. Because just watching everybody, especially at the dance section, everybody keeps looking at her to see what they should do and how she reacts. So maybe not as explicitly as we'd like to see it, but I think that they established it well enough for me.
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited. I think also the transformation of the monkeys, I made sure, because I took Sebastian and Ruby to see it. And even Sebastian, that jump scare, that one monkey jump scare, and the whole theater's like, huh! So I made sure to tell all of my friends with young kids, like the monkey part is a little bit
intense,
scary. And I love that they could bring that in. In the musical, they can't.
Yeah.
It's not as much, I actually thought that whole sequence was pretty cool. I wish the wizard was a little, I don't know. I needed more from him in that whole ending.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the monkeys were cool.
How do we feel about Madame Morrible?
I was just thinking that. I love me some Michelle. I was missing a lot from what Madame Morrible needed to be.
Agreed.
She seems so one-dimensional. It was like It was like
and
two
she's a
one-dimensionals.
phenomenal actress.
Mhm.
I mean, if you guys have seen her in anything else she does, she is, I mean, phenomenal. So that leads me to believe, did someone not direct her correctly? Was there like some strange character choice? Because I agree that it was one-dimensional is a great way, or subdued. I like that she's not a singer. So when she sings the beginning of Wizard of an Eye, she's like speak singing. And I liked that. I appreciated her not trying to be a singer. But I agree. It was a little kept close to the vest. And maybe that was on purpose.
I feel like we had the
don't know.
two moments with her where we had the shiz version where you think she's all on board for Elphaba and trying to help her, but which is its own one dimension. And then all of a sudden we have the flip, and it's then as if the first part never happened almost. And it's like this whole other character that is one dimensional. So far.
The second time I saw it, Tyler, just so you know, I rented out a movie theater for my 7th graders and I took them all to see Wicked. And it was so fun. We went on Friday night. And so some teachers were there, and my friend Shannon has never seen the musical. And she's seen the musical.
Okay.
She saw the musical, but a long time ago, once. And so partway through the movie, she leans over and she's like, she's evil, isn't she? There was a moment in the movie the second time I watched it that there's a scene with Madame Morrible that she does have a little bit of a something there that you're like, oh, I see that she's evil. But I agree. I can't pinpoint exactly what I would have wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know more, but
I think this might feed into why we didn't care for the reason why Elphaba was now at Shiz.
okay.
Because that moment, I feel like I needed to see the light bulb go off in Morrible's head, and all we saw was a turnaround and we're walking.
Mm-hmm.
We're walking closer. Like, I needed to see that acting moment of like, oh, okay, so like, we missed that little thing.
Yeah.
Because it could have also been interpreted to those that haven't seen it as like, oh, look, like an amazing student. Like, look, I can teach this person.
Which is what we got once she went down there to join.
Right.
And when she covered up for her.
So Tyler, piggybacking on that, and I can't remember in the musical or the book, I never got to that point, I don't think. Clearly the wizard knows that he has a baby out there, right? The wizard knows that she's his daughter, right? Like, he knows that in this Act 1, or does he find that out in Act 2? I can't remember. Like, he knows, right?
He does not know until
Act 2.
Elphaba is quote unquote dead.
And then he finds out?
Then he finds out.
Okay. Because for some reason, I'm recalling, so that makes sense then. Because I was like, there should have been this bigger shift of like, we found her, the one we know has power, but it's not. It's more this very talented human that can help us regardless of who she is. But he's got to look at a green. I mean, he has to have heard the story, right? But does Elphaba's mother die? She dies, right? After Nessa.
I mean, yeah. The wizard is dumb. Like, let's really think about it here.
Do you think the wizard is dumb?
Yes.
Yes.
And like Munchkin, so small-minded.
So small-minded. The fact that we're not going to get into like what... let's talk about how he gives this green elixir to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He has powers. This is more of a part 2 conversation. But he has these quote-unquote powers, magic.
Right, quote-unquote.
Oh, look. You know, and things led to things that as they so often do, as Galinda says. And then, this girl that happens to be green, just like the elixir.
Yes.
Yeah, the mother died, but guess what? Maybe I knew who the mother was.
Right.
Maybe.
That's the part
she
where
has powers too.
Yeah, we're missing that. Yeah. But so I'm curious how then in part 2 they're going to bring it around.
I have 2 more things real quick I must talk about.
Yeah, quick.
One, I've talked about the fact that I do not like certain songs from the musical, like Something Bad and Sentimental Man. And I think for me, the movie improved them because I still hate them on the stage play. I think Sentimental Man was less annoying than it is in the stage play for me. And I think that Something Bad is also less annoying to me. Just putting that out there.
I think Something Bad was definitely less annoying for me. I agree. I always, every time when I would listen to that soundtrack when I was younger, I'd be like, skip
ahead. So yes, so those two things, because those are my two biggest notes from the stage play and always have been. I'm like, can we not find another song to tell the same thing? I hate these.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then we cannot leave this podcast without talking about leaving space for Defying Gravity.
Oh, so you work in queer media?
Cannot leave.
What do you mean leaving space? I don't know what that means.
Holding space. Have you not seen this, Charna Lopez?
Charna.
No.
Okay, girl. I will show you.
Holding space for Defying Gravity?
Yes.
Am I living under a rock?
Yes.
What's happening?
So there, in this interview,
for those that are listening and not watching,
we're doing the finger hold. The finger hold. So
I'm so lost.
I'm gonna show you after this. And you will die. So they're in this interview, and the interviewer says something like, are you aware that people are talking about holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity? And you can tell that Cynthia's both like, what are you actually talking about? And then she says something like, well, that's what I always wanted, which is whatever. But then Ariana, so they're sitting next to each other on chairs. Ariana reaches over and like grabs Cynthia's finger, just one finger with the big old long nails on them. Just one finger. It's like, you know, you would expect them to just go and hold hands. No, just come and touches one finger. It is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life watching it happen.
Why does she do that?
It's just, I don't know. It's just like we're together, but just grabs the one finger. I can't help it. I cannot help it.
I need to see if I can find the video of them doing an interview after the fact with someone that was like, so we're going to talk about that specific interview, because it is so funny when they're asked about it and they were like, we had no idea what holding space for the lyrics of Defying Gravity were. But then in the interview, their faces, actors, they deserve EGOT for
because they're trying to keep the interview together instead of being like, what are you guys talking about?
That's exactly what I was hoping for. I think it's something like what Cynthia says.
Funny.
I'm like, oh my gosh,
that's funny. Okay, I gotta watch both of those. That's funny. That is
good.
funny.
So anyway, I just had to touch on those. Could not leave this podcast without talking about that.
I have one more thing that I literally just thought of right now. That's probably a better one to end on. So if you want to cut this out, you can. But I cannot with this one moment in the show or the movie. The first time I watched it, I think I was too like trying to follow along and get everything. The second time I watched it, I sort of laughed out loud. Why do they have Jeff Goldblum do like a scuffle tap moment for a?
Oh my God. Tyler's gone.
He quit.
He fell over.
He quit. Tyler quit. It is the strangest. It's like he says something and then they look down at his feet and he's got these fierce green shoes and he's like, "Da-la-la-la-la." And then that's it. That's all we did.
That's all.
It was so out of place, so bizarre. It would have been one thing if in his number he did like a soft shoe or something. I was just like, why? It wasn't real. It looked like it was so bizarre. It was so bizarre. That was strange.
John M. Chu, let me tell you, you are the only one that's allowed to direct movie musicals from here on out. That being said, coming from the tapper of the industry, being Charna Lopez, also agreeing with the masses that we did not need.
We didn't need it.
Literal 5, 6, 7, 8 of shuffles.
Yes.
5, 6, 7, 8.
We didn't need it.
Need that.
And also, try it. And then when you see it in the movie,
you're like, no.
And you're like, cut it.
Yeah.
That is where I was like, maybe that was a good idea in the planning. And then it's like, no, that is not a good idea.
Immediately no.
That and Adina's wig.
Girl.
Gotta go. Got to go. Get the queen a new wig. She deserves a better wig than some weird thing from the trash can coming out of the side of her head. Poor girl. Oh my gosh. I feel so sad for her. Christopher, like, I'm going to Google it right now for you, and I'm going to hold it up to the camera.
Okay.
Okay. You guys talk amongst yourself while I Google, because
ready.
I feel like it's important.
It's important because I need to notice how horrendously terrible this wig is. Did you notice that, Tyler? I have to say I did not notice on my viewing that the wig was terrible. I was just excited to see Kristen and Adina. So
I was too shocked. I did not notice it the first time. The second time,
you did.
I needed to make up my own like battle cry because I felt bad.
It was Tyler, I can't find a good shot of it. I can't find a good shot of it. But I felt the same way. The first time I was too like taken aback by this new piece of music that they were putting into it that I didn't really care. And then the second time I was like, oh no. Like, just, okay, I got to find it.
All right,
it's got to be here
question for both of you regarding these two. Did either of you know about the cameo of them in the movie beforehand?
No, I did not.
I can't say that I had hard evidence, but it was one of those things where it's like, how could you not include them when they're still both actively working in the industry?
Yeah.
Like, they would stop anything to be a part.
I was not surprised that it happened, but I did not know it was coming. And I thought that was really cool that they managed to keep that out of any media or anything like that. So I was like, oh, we do have the ability, in fact, to keep things under wraps. You wouldn't know.
It's not a good shot. But
there it is. Oh,
what is your wig?
Yeah. Yep. Little birds flew into the dump and dropped it on her head.
Hey, she did the best she could with that thing.
All right.
Did we talk about how there were multiple former Elphabas and Galindas and people that have been in the Broadway show in the movie?
No,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
what? That's fun.
It's just that's kind of it. That's the statement. Period. Full stop.
Are they just they're in the ensemble?
It's really
they're like
cool.
In the ensemble?
Yeah.
That's
fun. Love that.
It was really because I'm like I'm so focused on my Elphabas that
I love that.
when I recognized a few of them, I was like, ooh, and then I went down the spiral of who else was in it.
I do feel like, again, like my sister was on the tour for 3 years, and I feel like any theater, we know you get this family feeling, and we know that as being theater people, but I do think there's something about Wicked that it's like, I don't want to use the word cult because that's not correct, but there's some sort of different, deeper connection between these people who have done that musical in one form or another. And part of it, I want to say, is because it's never been licensed. So it's not like I've done Fiddler on the Roof, or I did The Little Mermaid, or I was in the production of whatever, because after all of these years, they've never licensed it to be done regionally. So either you were on a Broadway tour or you were on Broadway. And so there's this community of Wicked people that are like really interconnected somehow, you know? I love that they included some of them in the movie. That's cool. That's really cool. Hey, do you guys know who did the choreography? Was it the same choreographer as Greatest Showman?
I do not know if it was the same choreographer.
Because the second it started, Jerry leaned over to me and he's like, this is the same choreographer as Greatest Showman, right? The movement is very, very similar to Greatest Showman. Or maybe there's somebody who learned from that choreographer. It felt very similar.
It did.
The choreographer's name is Christopher Scott.
Oh, he's did he do Hairspray the movie?
Oh, I don't know. But either way, it's not Greatest Showman, because that was Ashley Wallen.
Okay.
Thank you, Google.
Thank you, Google.
We've used Google a lot. Google want to sponsor us?
Anybody?
We're over here using Google.
No way. Jerry Mitchell also did the choreography for Hairspray Live.
Okay.
I didn't know that. I knew he did the Broadway in the Broadway.
But Hairspray the movie, the newer movie, I love the choreography in that one. And I thought that was Christopher Scott. Maybe I'm wrong.
So Christopher Scott is from Dancing with, or So You Think You Can Dance. Okay. And he did stuff with Dancing with the Stars, Teen Beach Movie, Step Up franchise.
Ah, Teen Beach Movie. I love the choreo in Teen Beach Movie.
There you go.
All right, we got to wrap this. We got to wrap this. We got to wrap this mother up. Oh, you can't stop Look at that hairspray transition.
I think it's a proper second act should be, I believe we're slightly shorter. So take a note, Wicked Part 2. And
I always say can I, but I just do it anyway. I should just interrupt.
Do it.
Everybody, please stay tuned for 2 more episodes at least with Tyler, because we will have once they release some trailers for part 2, Tyler's back. And then once they release part 2, Tyler's back.
There you go.
So Tyler, thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We
Next
love
time
having
I'll
you.
make sure that everything's charged and we have the correct things on the computer, and we'll actually have good quality for
it's
one of
all
my
good.
episodes.
So everybody, you
you
need to know, Tyler texted, we decided just yesterday, we're like, oh, we got to do this. Tyler sent us pictures. He was ready to go with his fancy microphone. And then
he was excited.
He was so excited. And then literally Sharon and I are texting. We're like, I hope he's okay. Because he was like not responding.
I literally thought something happened to you.
Yeah.
I was like, did he get in a car accident? Like, did he get what happened? Because you were not answering. We were scared.
So note to everyone, charge your devices. This is what we're going to say. Public service announcement. Keep your devices charged.
Yeah, do that. If you learned anything from this podcast episode, it is please charge your devices.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thanks for listening, Charno fans. Follow us on Instagram. Like us. Follow. I don't know anymore. Yep. Do the YouTube, do the Instagram, check out the website, uncommonpod.com, buy some merch. And on that note, Charnopher out.
I couldn't have done that if I tried. Get it, Christopher? That was good. I like it. I like it.
This concludes another episode of Uncommon Sense. If you're ready for more of this fresh, hilarious, and unique perspective on the world of entertainment, education, and life, be sure to subscribe right now to catch every episode. If you gasped, laughed out loud, or even snorted, share the show with your friends and aspiring entertainers because, let's be real, sharing is caring. For more Charnopher, tune in to their witty insights by checking out the website uncommonpod.com or connecting on social media. Tune in next week and get the real insider scoop on another episode of Uncommon Sense.